Greetings everyone from Poco Traveler. Today is Sunday, March 27th, 2022. It is 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And the motivation behind this morning's walk is to just show that it snowed in Cleveland. Even though we're in springtime and getting ready to approach April in a couple of days, the snow on the ground is still plentiful. In fact, this house still has some Christmas lights up, just to celebrate the festive mood, so to speak. I always like walking by this area here. It's like one of those book things, like where if you're in the community you can go and borrow a book, or not even borrow, but like take a book or leave a book. And this particular house also has a bench here where they sometimes leave various like food pantry type of items, or if someone needs them they can grab an item. Right now we're walking on West Boulevard. We are south of Lorraine, though. Lorraine Avenue, I'm referring to. If you go north of Lorraine, you'd be headed toward Edgewater Park, so we're in the opposite direction. Just a few minutes ago, there were small, if you want to call them ice pellets or hail pellets falling, so that's when I actually got dressed and rushed to grab my camera. So I missed that little brief snowfall, and it may not snow the rest of the day as there are only high winds in the forecast. But the temperature right now says 27 degrees, feels like 13. Which is crazy to think that it feels like 13 degrees when you consider just about, what was it, a week and a half ago for St. Patrick's Day, I think it cracked 70 degrees. But as Clevelanders know, that's Cleveland weather for you, especially when you're kind of in that area transitioning from one season to the other. I believe Cleveland's supposed to have a couple of days down here in the 20s and low 30s before it gets back up to the 60s on Wednesday. This intersection here at West Boulevard has several cross sections. You always have to be cautious. I'm familiar with the order that the traffic lights change from having walked it so many times over the years. So I am going to cross West Boulevard and head toward the West 105th area. So yeah, the light just changed green for these drivers. And if memory serves me correctly, I believe after those cars go straight and the light changes for them, then this walk sign will trigger. Let's see, is my memory correct? Yep. So if you, on West 105th, if you headed about 5 blocks that direction, you would run into Lorraine Avenue, close to West Town, where there's a McDonald's, a Save-A-Lot, Shoppers World. When I was growing up at that West Town Plaza, there was a Finest and a Tops there, grocery store. I can't remember if there was a Giant Eagle ever went to that location, or if it just ended with Tops as the grocery store. But now where Tops is a Save-A-Lot grocery store. On West 105th, these first couple of lots are auto care or car repair places. I don't know if this place is still open. During last year and previous years, there would always be several cars here, like for sale or being repaired. The barber shop is gone now. So there was a longtime barber who was here, then that person retired about 3 years ago, I say. But then I believe a salon of some sort temporarily moved in, but it looks like that place is gone now. And unfortunately, a lot of these buildings appear vacant from the storefront perspective. I know my mom grew up in this area, in this neighborhood, so she would always tell me stories of the shops and places. Unfortunately, she's the one with the good memory of all that. I have a tough time recounting what exactly was where, despite the fact that she's told me many times. It's always different when you hear stories versus actually experience it yourself. That's why I like the West Town area I was talking about. I've seen the change in that particular plaza. Now this Dragon Light Chinese Vietnamese restaurant, pretty sure they're still open. I was there once for a lunch on a Saturday. Dairy Queen has been one of the few staples on 105th that has existed for the whole duration of my lifetime. I know it's cool when they decorate for like Halloween and Christmas. They bring out nice inflatables and decorations. It's been remodeled over the years. You have a couple of houses here and there sprinkled in, like there's one house here. And then across the street they still have the sign for the old Baker's Bakery. That was open when I was a kid. I loved going inside, and they had this little safe that you could like twist the dial of and open it. There was nothing in the safe, but it was like a cool thing to play with as a kid, and then just seeing all the pastries on display. But that has been closed for a long time. I feel like it's been closed for at least 20 years. I could be wrong on that date, but that's what it feels like. I know the West Denison baseball signage is always located on those buildings, but I don't know if they're actually active there anymore, or if they're in a different spot. This building here was the old General Pest Control, and this was here for most of my life, although I feel like 3 or 4 years ago, you can see this location is closed. They now are at West 160th Street. Yeah, I believe that was a neighborhood staple from even when my mom was growing up. The street is still pretty, it's like active. It's not a dead street, so that's why I guess a little surprised why none of these businesses have ever reflourished. Again, here's another example where you have a house amidst everything else. Convenient food mart. That has been there my entire life, so that's been there a while. Next to that right now is a Shining Stars Learning Center. I'm pretty sure that was a pizza place. I forget exactly what it was called, but I do remember my mom talking about that one. And I think it was a pizza place when I was younger. If we took that brick road there, that leads you toward West 104th, West Boulevard. That red factory is the Walford Industries factory. Inside of Walford, I believe there's actually, in a portion of it, a huge indoor, there's no cars coming either way. Yeah, but inside of Walford, there's a huge indoor, like BMX biking or skateboarding facility. I'm assuming it's still open. This is Thrush Park. So let me walk around here. Now Thrush Park, I've heard, has had a lot of changes over the years as well. Now how it looks now, this is how it's always mostly looked since I've been living for a little over 32 years, yeah. They have done a little bit of renovations to the ball diamond aspects. Like this baseball diamond, I believe, remained unchanged during my span. But a few years ago, just beyond that, they redid all the cement and the infields and relocated the other 2 ball diamonds. We'll get over there in a second. For many years now, me and my brother and a bunch of guys who grew up in this neighborhood, weekly we would try to play basketball up here at Thrush Park, even though many of them have moved to suburbs. And a few of them still live in the area. We try to get together once a week and play basketball during the summertime, and then during the winter we would transition to touch football. So that was always something I think all of us look forward to. I know the pandemic and a combination of personal health reasons for people have kind of temporarily put some of those activities on hold, but we're hoping we can get back to them a little bit. But some of those guys I played with over the years, they've talked about the history of Thrush Park, and again, they would be able to tell you much better. My memory is not the greatest. I love hearing stories, but then since I haven't experienced them myself, I lose touch of it. Before I get to those stories, here's an example of one of the newer renovated ball diamonds. Of course, since the field is saturated with water and snow, you can't get the best picture of it right now. But it's nice that they have dugouts of some form. Yeah, before this backstop area was all the way at the other side where that fire hydrant is. So they kind of reversed it. And during winter time, when I would play touch football, we would always set up where these grass areas are over here, going north and south. They would measure the field, line up cones. It was always a blast. In fact, well, today's Sunday, but we would have been playing one of these days this week if everyone's health had been a little bit better. Here's the basketball courts, and this goes back to some of the history. The guys told me that at least a portion of this used to be more of like a hockey area where you could play hockey. This is where we would play basketball. We used to play on this court here, but then the backboard for this hoop right here fell off or came loose, and the backboard used to be huge like how those other three are right there. But after the backboard fell off, the city really didn't replace it for years. We put in phone calls and they're like, yeah, we have the backboard, we're just undergoing repair, and then nothing would ever come of it. And then I think all of a sudden last year, this mysteriously appeared one day, and we're like, oh, they put it back up, which is nice that they have it up. But on the same note, it's kind of, when you have one backboard that's so huge, anyone who plays basketball and utilizes the backboard for certain shots knows that it's much different playing on a tiny one like that. But at least people can shoot at that hoop now, say if they aren't playing a full game. What do we have here? I'm looking at the bench over here where it looks like graffiti, but it almost looks like not just like a random spray painting. I can't tell, is that words or is that like artistic housing? To me it almost looks like a downtown city skyline, but maybe it's a word. Yeah, here's the backboards and rims. Sometimes the integrity of these comes loose, but right now they seem to be in pretty good shape, and I think the city painted the poles and the back of the backboards last year to give them a newer look. But yeah, for the last X number of years, this is the court we've played on since both backboards are the same and both have been up. The only issue is, again, if you're a seasoned basketball player, you can tell the backboard is on a slant, so you do have to get a little bit used to that. And the trees here, they aren't doing it right now, but a lot of times during the summertime they'll grow and overhang over the hoop, so if you're doing a shot from this corner and you shoot a high arching shot, it'll actually hit the tree. What was nice though is one of the guys we would play with, sometimes they had a big, like where you would stand on the ground but could use a little tree cutting trimmer. They would stand underneath it and reach up with it and just clip a couple of branches to help prune them and eliminate that issue. I think this was part of the renovation too. They added some more dugout areas to these baseball fields. Sometimes you have to be cautious when walking around this gas station area up here, which transitions West 105th Street into Bel Air. Because there's been a lot of crime and like shooting reports around this gas station area for some reason. I have that app called the Citizens app. Sometimes you get an alert, and anytime it shows a nearby gas station with a crime, it's usually in this area. Hello, little robin. The robins are probably thinking, what the heck is going on? I thought we were back in the summer weather already. Now the trees have not yet changed over to green yet, as you can obviously tell, so it's not one of those days. I have seen days in Cleveland in the past where the trees are starting to bloom, you see some green on them, and then all of a sudden there's snow on the ground. So it's definitely not unheard of for snow to fall even at some points in April. But yeah, I guess I'm expecting over the next few weeks here for the snow to start, or not the snow, for the trees to start getting their leaves. I'm gonna walk back in a little bit, but first I wanted to circle around St. Philip's and James. I think anyone who grew up in this area or neighborhood, this is probably the school or church they attended. Unfortunately, now it is no longer a school, and I'm pretty sure, I don't think the church is open anymore either. Although I could be mistaken on that. But yeah, I'm pretty sure both are closed. Yeah, now that I'm thinking about it more, I'm going to say it's definitely been closed. I think the thing I was thinking of is they still do upkeep on the outside, like mowing the grass and things like that. But I remember however many years ago, this was one of the closings in the Catholic churches. See boxes in the window there. I wonder what they have stored inside. I see the sign there. It says Constellation Schools Westside Community School of the Arts. So it may still be actively used in some capacity, and maybe that's why I was thinking I've seen some traffic here before. Yep, Saints Philip and James. I know many years ago there was something called Horizon Academy, I believe, that tried to move into the school and may have been here for a little bit. So it sounds like various schools have experimented with it, but now it's Constellation Schools. So I assume the building is still being used for that. Tuition-free public school. think I'm going to cut right down Oliver Street. Some of these street pronunciations between having visited Seattle and just certain streets in Cleveland, I always second guess myself when I look at a street name. I'm so used to reading certain things that I can't pronounce that I overthink it. Like when I saw Oliver, my first instinct was like, oh, does that say Olivier or Olivier or something like French related? And then I look at it closer, I'm like, no, there's no extra I before the E, it's just Oliver. Here's the back side of St. Philip and James. From the look of the building, I'm sure it looks exactly like how it did for anyone who went to school or church here for elementary school. I think my mom used to tell me that they would do carnivals up here too. I am assuming in the parking lot here. I wonder if places still do carnivals. I never experienced a carnival here, but there's a place called St. Vincent de Paul up on Lorraine near 134th Street, where I used to go there as a kid. Every year we would go, and I wouldn't necessarily go on the rides, but we would walk around and maybe play a little bit of the bingo. And then when parents would drive us around, you would see other carnivals throughout the years. I think there was one probably it was in Parma. It was kind of on the border of what I think of as Brooklyn and Parma. We would go to that one every year and play in some of the carnival games or just look around. I feel like that's just a lost activity where you really don't see it happening anymore. Guess I attribute it as being similar to the shopping mall. There used to be a lot of shopping malls, and then it became survival of the fittest with how online shopping has grown in such popularity that a lot of those malls couldn't survive, so now they're gone or repurposed, and now you only have a few malls left, like on the west side of Cleveland, I believe. North Olmsted and Strongsville are the closest indoor shopping malls remaining. North Olmsted one, a few times I've been there the past couple of years, it does always seem like it's booming in traffic still. I think that has kind of helped where you reduce the number of malls, so the few that do remain, it's going to get a bigger surge in visitors. So we are back near Thrush now, and I can briefly talk about this plaza over here. Right now you see a sign that says Famous Gyros George, or Famous Gyro George. I don't think that's even there anymore, the Famous Gyro George. But the far left store over there, when I was growing up, it was called Barber Video. But from what my parents tell me, before Barber Video, it was like a barber shop, an actual barber shop, and then the same. Well, you can already hear something at the gas station. I don't know if you picked that up. Someone said, "What are you beeping the fucking horn for?" But yeah, that far left shop over here when I was growing up was called Barber Video, and that was like my favorite place ever because they had Super Nintendo video games that you could rent and check out. And Super Nintendo as a kid was like the best thing ever. So our parents would go up there often and try to rent various video games. I think the first one I ever remember them renting was Donkey Kong Country. And then it's regularly they would rent Top Gear as a racing video game. Sometimes Super Mario Kart. But yeah, that was a blast. They also had, VHS tapes that you could rent out as well. Then next to Barber Video in the middle, I don't know what the place, I don't know if it was Domino's originally when I was growing up, but I know for quite a while there was a Domino's Pizza there, and that's where we would always get our pizza. Eventually they moved to close to West 105th, between 105th and 110th Street on Lorraine Avenue. And that's where I still eat Domino's to this day regularly, and that's where I go. So I've been following that same Domino's franchise. And then right now the store here on the corner is called Star Value. That one is still open. I'm pretty sure it was called something else many years ago, and when I was, like when my parents would have been growing up, but I can't remember what it was called then. This traffic light takes a while, but I see it is changing. That countdown is down to 2 and 1. This is another tricky intersection though. Even though it doesn't look like it, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's like a 5-way intersection. You know what? It was hidden. I thought I was looking at this pole saying, oh, there's no crosswalk button on it. I'll probably have to wait another cycle here. As that sun is starting to peek out of the clouds a little bit. While I'm waiting for the light, you get another glimpse of Thrush Park. This was always the smaller of the baseball diamonds. So when I was growing up, if I ever wanted to practice hitting the ball, I would go on the other diamonds because I would always be afraid, like, what if the ball travels over the fence? Although it probably was a little too optimistic for me, thinking I could actually hit one over the fence at that age. You can feel my hand starting to get into a claw here from the cold temperatures. I believe this is Jasper that we're walking down right now. This tree here, I think I still see some remnants of it. When I was growing up, coming from Thrush Park, would have Buckeyes on it. So I always would call this the Buckeye tree. So whenever Buckeyes were falling, I would try to collect them. This street now is going to curve toward a little park and then go back into West Boulevard. So if you're ever wondering where West Boulevard ends, or begins, depending on which direction you're coming from. We're about to hit that spot, and then it would go all the way to Edgewater. Surprised the wind has not been a little bit higher compared to what the forecast is showing. What's funny is I originally began this walk with the intention of like, oh, let me go out there and show the mini snowstorm that's happening. But instead it just ended up being a little calm walk around this neighborhood and trying to give a little bit of history. Believe me, I wish I was much more in tune with the deeper history over the years. I always say to myself I need to be better about my research and take some notes ahead of time, but when you do kind of a spontaneous, impromptu walk like this, then I just try to wing it a bit. But as I always say too, when nicer weather comes, this is a type of walk where I could redo it and expand upon it, maybe walk in some other areas, and I would love to write down some notes so I can remember them and have better talking points, or more accurate talking points. There's 2 tiny ball diamonds here that they would use for little kids. I can tell one story. That diamond over there, I think it was that one. God, it looked so much bigger when I was a kid. But I remember I was playing up there and fielding a ball in the outfield, and someone had a loose dog that came up and I didn't know it, and I saw the loose dog, and then I almost like closed my eyes and was like screaming and starting to run toward the infield area. And by the way, now it's called James M. Dunphy Park. I don't know if it was always called that. But yeah, eventually, long story short, the guy who had the dog was apologizing. I think he lived in one of these houses over here. And I think he brought me a baseball. It was probably like a giveaway from a Cleveland Indians game, or maybe it was a giveaway at like a Taco Bell, some type of promotional thing. I can't remember if it was autographed or not, but it was, the baseball itself was colored like red, white, and blue Cleveland Indians colors. Now they're the Guardians, but I think it was maybe a David Justice ball. Could have been a different player. But yeah, I always have that memory in my head. So yeah, as I was saying earlier, this is kind of where West Boulevard starts, like right here where that sign is at West Boulevard in Clinton. Down that road would be Clinton. You can see the 18 bus, which used to be the 81, going down there right now. Clinton has basically a bunch of factories. On the other side of this white building would be a place called Arrow, where they make and manufacture a lot of bingo cards and other cards of that sort. But yeah, there's a whole host of other factories, and eventually Clinton takes you into Ridge Road, where you can either make a left at Ridge Road to go up toward Denison and Dave's Supermarket and continue on Denison, or you can make a right and start heading toward Old Brooklyn and then Brooklyn, and eventually all the way out toward Parma. There's a nice bicycle trail near the area of Brook Park Road, where one day during the summer I'd like to use my chest mount to show off that bike trail. So maybe I'll even show off some of the ride and how I get to there, because because I do, when I have gone to that trail in the past, I ride down West Boulevard, take Clinton, and there's actually a peaceful looking cemetery off of Clinton that kind of diagonals into Ridge Road up toward Brookside Park on Ridge Road. But then I continue down. Yeah, there's actually multiple ways you could get to the place. You could either go that way, or you could go down Bel Air, where I was just showing by that gas station, and then go by the old kiddie park, and then take Tiedemann Road. That's actually closer to the start of the trail, but I've taken both ways to get there before. The Ridge Road way is a little more scenic in some spots. I believe when I did the Ridge Roadway one time, I cut down one of the streets, and there's a park in Brooklyn that has some nice little pretty sights to it. And eventually I did make my way back over toward Tiedemann, but that was just a funner visual route to take. Here's the Walford factory that I was referring earlier. You know what? They probably do still have that BMX thing back here somewhere, because that car over there has a bike hitch to the back of it, and there's, can't tell if it's one or two bikes that are on there. This is West Boulevard and Dale. There's that car I was talking about. Yeah, it looks like two bikes. And they do look like the BMX kind of bikes. There are bike lanes on West Boulevard. They redesigned West Boulevard several years ago. Sorry, I know I probably should be panning down some of these streets here and there. There's bike lanes on West Boulevard, and in spots there's somewhat dedicated bike lanes, but I've never quite felt the most comfortable on them. I think on this particular part of the bike lane, they have a bike lane dedicated going south, but going north it shares the lane, and then they have a parking lane on the edge right up against the curb. But just from the eye test of having seen West Boulevard for many years, I just flat out don't trust the traffic on it, the drivers. West Boulevard used to have two lanes going both directions, which I'm not saying that it should have stayed that way, but I feel like West Boulevard, you know, some streets when they used to be two lanes, they were like really wide two lanes. So when they transition it to having a parking lane and bicycle lane, there's still, you know, more than enough room for cars, but the car lanes are like very tight right now. So anytime you have someone wanting to pass someone or not quite paying attention to where, you know, where the biking lane is, it just doesn't, I don't feel as comfortable as a rider. So most of the time if I'm biking down this area, I end up taking the sidewalks, which is not the most ideal thing, because even though West Boulevard has beautiful houses on it, I know the houses aren't as big in this section as they would be like going more north of Lorraine Avenue. The houses are still nice. Unfortunately, there's a lot of spots where the sidewalks are bumpy. Not so much where I'm walking now, but over on the other side. In fact, let's see if I can cross over. And here's a shot of what I was talking about. See, I look like a liar because the lane is wider on this end where there's the shared bike and car lane, but obviously it wasn't wide enough to make that dedicated bike lane. You can see one house up here with the flag out in not celebration, but in support of Ukraine. And it's nice to see some flowers growing, right? That's a sign of spring. So we took our time and did a nice, what is it, about a 47-minute video here. Up there is basically where we started. That big intersection where West Boulevard meets West 105th. So this is probably a good time to wrap up the video. If you enjoyed this video that began as trying to show off the snow and turned into a little bit of a neighborhood walk history stroll, feel free to like this video if you haven't already. Would love it if you could hit that subscribe button. I know our numbers keep changing every day, so when people view this video it may be different, but as of the date of shooting this video, I think we're near 328 subscribers, which is awesome. Love sharing our walks with more and more people. And if you grew up in this neighborhood, feel free to leave a comment down below and continue watching. We will see you next time.